I told my friend her boyfriend tried to make a move on me, but she didn't believe me, and our entire friend group accused me of being jealous of her. It was supposed to be a normal Friday night. The five of us had been friends since college, and we had this tradition of meeting for dinner at least once a month. Even though life had gotten busier, we always made time for each other. One of those friends was Emma. Emma had been dating her boyfriend, Ryan, for almost 2 years. Everyone thought they were the perfect couple. At every gathering, Ryan was charming. He remembered everyone's birthdays. He paid for coffee sometimes. He joked with everyone equally. He even called us his second family. I never had a reason to dislike him. In fact, I barely talked to him unless Emma was standing right there. I respected their relationship, or at least, I thought I did. Looking back now, there were tiny moments that made me uncomfortable. He'd compliment me a little too much. Not obvious enough for anyone else to notice, just small comments. You always look good in black. I wish Emma would dress more like you. You've got a nice smile. I laughed them off because I didn't want to make things awkward. I convinced myself he was just friendly. Besides, he was my best friend's boyfriend. Crossing that line never even crossed my mind. Until one night, it happened after Emma's birthday dinner. We all ate at this rooftop restaurant, laughed for hours, took dozens of pictures, and by the end of the night, everyone started heading home. Emma left first because she wasn't feeling well. Another friend offered to drive her. The rest of us stayed back to split the bill. Ryan suddenly said, "Hey, can you wait for a second? I need to ask you something." I assumed it was about Emma's birthday gift. Nothing unusual, so I waited. Everyone else slowly left. Within a few minutes, it was just the two of us standing near the parking lot. That's when his entire personality changed. He stepped closer, way closer than necessary. I instinctively took a step back. He smiled, not the friendly smile everyone else knew it felt. Different. He looked at me and said, "You know, I've always thought you were prettier than Emma." I actually laughed because I thought he was joking. I said, "That's not funny." He shrugged. "I'm serious." My stomach dropped. Before I could respond, he kept talking. "I think you and I have more chemistry." I stared at him, waiting for him to laugh, waiting for him to say he was kidding. He didn't. Instead, he asked if I had met you first. "Do you think we'd be together?" I immediately told him, "You need to stop." He took another step toward me. "I don't think you'd tell Emma." My heart was pounding. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't some misunderstanding. This wasn't an awkward joke. He was testing my reaction. I told him, "I'm leaving." As I turned around, he reached for my wrist, not aggressively, just enough to stop me for a second. I pulled my hand away immediately. He laughed. "Relax. I was just seeing if there was something between us." I looked him straight in the eye and said, "There isn't." Then I walked away without looking back. The entire drive home, my hands were shaking. I kept replaying the conversation over and over. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe he'd been drinking. I spent the whole night trying to convince myself there had to be another explanation. But every time I replayed his words, "Always thought you were prettier than Emma. I don't think you'd tell her." There was no innocent interpretation. The next morning, Ryan sent me a message. "I hope you won't make things weird." That's all it said. No apology, no explanation, just that. I didn't reply. Instead, I screenshotted it. For almost 2 days, I debated whether I should tell Emma. I knew exactly what could happen. She might believe me, or she might choose him. Either way, our friendship would never be the same again. I even asked my sister what she would do. She said something I'll never forget. "If someone knew your boyfriend was acting like that, wouldn't you want them to tell you?" She was right. So I called Emma. I asked if we could meet privately. She sounded cheerful, completely unaware of what was about to happen. When we sat down, I couldn't even look her in the eyes. I simply said, "I need to tell you something, and it's probably going to hurt." Her smile disappeared. I explained everything exactly as it happened, word for word. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't leave anything out. I even showed her the screenshot of his message. She read it, looked at me, then looked at her phone again. I expected tears, maybe anger, maybe questions instead. She started laughing. Not nervous laughter, actual laughter. She looked at me and said, "You're joking, right?" "I wish I was." She shook her head. "No, Ryan would never do that." I reminded her about the message. She immediately defended him. "That doesn't prove anything." I told her, "Why would I make something like this up?" She folded her arms. Then came the sentence that completely broke my heart. "Think you're jealous." I froze, jealous of what. She continued. "Been single for years. You always say relationships are stressful. Think you're trying to ruin mine." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had just risked our friendship to protect her, and somehow, I had become the villain. I left the cafe feeling sick. Part of me hoped she'd calm down and think about everything I'd said. Instead, by that evening, my phone started exploding with messages. Not from Emma, from our friends. One, "Would you lie about Ryan?" Another said, "You should be happy for Emma instead of trying to destroy her relationship." Then someone sent, "We never expected this from you." I realized Emma had already told everyone her version of the story. And somehow, in her version, I was the jealous friend trying to steal attention. I typed out long explanations more than once, then deleted every single one. Because deep down, I realized something painful. They had already decided who they believed, and it wasn't me. The next morning, I woke up hopping everything had just spiraled because emotions were running high. Maybe after everyone slept on it, they'd realize none of this made sense. Instead, things got worse. Our group chat had gone completely silent. Not a single person replied to my messages anymore. Then I noticed something else. I'd been removed from the group. No explanation, no conversation, just gone. I stared at my screen for a full minute. 5 years of friendship had disappeared with one tap. I still refused to believe they would throw me away without hearing my side. So I messaged one of the girls individually. Out of everyone, I thought Lily was the most reasonable. I asked if we could just talk. She replied almost immediately, "I don't want to get involved." I told her she was already involved. We were all friends. She responded with something that honestly hurt more than being ignored. "Emma's been crying for 2 days. Ryan swears you're lying." We're choosing to support her. Choosing. That word stayed with me, not because they had proof, not because they knew the truth, because they had already chosen. I put my phone down and cried harder than I had in years, not because Ryan had made a move on me, that was disgusting enough, but because people I'd loved like family didn't even give me 5 minutes to explain myself. A week later, I bumped into one of our mutual friends at the grocery store. She looked awkward, like she wanted to say something. Eventually, she sighed. "I probably shouldn't tell you this." My stomach sank. "What?" She hesitated before saying, "They've been talking about you." I asked what she meant. She looked uncomfortable, saying you wanted attention. "They think you secretly liked Ryan." I actually laughed, not because it was funny, because it was unbelievable. The woman continued, "Emma keeps saying you imagined everything because you wanted someone to finally notice you." I couldn't even process that. Then she quietly added, "And Ryan keeps acting like he's the victim." Apparently, he'd been telling everyone he couldn't even compliment a friend without being accused of something. People were comforting him, comforting him. Meanwhile, I was losing every friendship I had. I stopped going out, stopped posting online, stopped answering messages from mutual friends because I didn't know who had heard what. For almost a month, I stayed quiet, not because I had something to hide, because I was exhausted. Then something happened that I never expected. One afternoon, I received a follow request from a girl I didn't recognize. Her profile was private, no mutual friends, just a simple message. "Can we talk? It's about Ryan." I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. She introduced herself. Her name was Chloe. She worked in the same office as Ryan. She apologized before she even explained anything. "I'm sorry if this is random, but I think you deserve to know you're not the first girl he's done this to." I felt my heart racing. She told me Ryan had a habit of flirting with women whenever Emma wasn't around. Nothing physical, at least not that she had personally seen, but enough to make several women uncomfortable. One coworker had even reported him to HR after repeated inappropriate comments. Another transferred to a different team because she didn't want to deal with him anymore. I asked if Emma knew. Chloe said she didn't think so. Every time someone tried to warn her, Ryan convinced her they were misunderstandings. I thanked Chloe for telling me. She even offered to send screenshots of conversations where coworkers discussed his behavior. I looked at every single one. Some messages were months old. Some were from before Emma and Ryan had even celebrated their first anniversary. There it was, the pattern. He wasn't targeting me. I was just another woman he'd tried his luck with. For a moment, I thought about sending everything to Emma. I even opened our old chat. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, then I stopped. I remembered the look on her face when she called me jealous. I remembered every accusation, every ignored message, every friendship I'd already lost, if she hadn't believed me when I came to her with honesty. Why would she believe strangers? So I closed the chat. I chose peace instead, or at least, I tried to. Because even after I walked away, they didn't stop talking about me. Everywhere I went, I felt people looking. Mutual acquaintances suddenly became distant. Some unfollowed me online. Others avoided eye contact. The rumors had spread much farther than I realized. One evening, another mutual friend finally admitted what had been happening behind my back. She said every time the group met up, my name came up eventually. Not because they missed me, because they laughed about me. Emma would joke that I was desperate. Ryan would roll his eyes and act like I had imagined the entire thing, and the rest of them, instead of questioning it, they joined in. Then the conversation shifted from the accusations. To me, they started picking apart everything about my appearance. One person joked that I looked too plain to think someone would flirt with me. Another laughed about my clothes, saying I always dressed like I was trying too hard. Someone else mocked my hairstyle and said it made me look older than I actually was. Then they moved on to my body. They criticized my weight, made jokes about my shape, compared me to Emma as if we were contestants in some competition I never agreed to enter. One even said, Ryan wouldn't risk his relationship for someone who looks like that. When I heard that, it hurt in a completely different way, not because I believed them, but because these were people who had once called me their best friend. People who had celebrated my birthdays, stayed at my house, shared secrets with me. Now they were using my appearance as entertainment. That's when I finally accepted something. I hadn't just lost a friend. I'd lost an entire group of people who were never truly in my corner. Months passed, life became quieter at first. The silence felt unbearable. No group chats, no weekend dinners, no random phone calls. I kept reaching for my phone out of habit, only to remember there was no one left to message. It felt lonely, but little by little, I realized it was also peaceful. There was no gossip, no drama, no walking on eggshells, just peace. I started spending more time with my family. I joined a local fitness class. I even picked up hobbies I'd been putting off because I was always trying to fit into everyone else's schedule. For the first time in years, I was building a life that didn't revolve around pleasing other people. Then, about 4 months later, I was shopping at a bookstore when someone called my name. I turned around. It was Emma. I almost didn't recognize her. She looked exhausted. The confident smile she always wore was gone. For a second, neither of us spoke. Finally, she asked, "Can we talk?" Every part of me wanted to say no, but curiosity got the better of me. We walked to a nearby cafe. Neither of us touched our drinks. Emma kept staring at the table. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, "You were telling the truth." I didn't respond. She continued, "I found out everything." Apparently, Ryan hadn't changed. He'd simply gotten bolder. She had caught him sending flirty messages to another woman. At first, he denied it. Then he claimed it was harmless. Then he blamed alcohol, then work stress, then loneliness. The excuses kept changing. Eventually, another woman contacted Emma directly. She shared screenshots, voice messages, even photos proving Ryan had been meeting her behind Emma's back. Emma confronted him again. This time, he admitted he had been talking to multiple women throughout their relationship. Not just one, multiple. Emma looked like she was about to cry. "I should have believed you." I stayed silent. Because there was nothing left to say, she apologized over and over. She admitted she had been embarrassed. She said believing me would have meant admitting she'd ignored dozens of warning signs, so instead, she convinced herself I was the problem. I appreciated the honesty, but it didn't erase what happened. Then she asked the question I had been expecting. "Can we be friends again?" I looked at her for a long moment. Then I shook my head, not out of anger, out of self-respect. I told her, "The day I came to you, I wasn't trying to steal your boyfriend. I was trying to protect my friend. You didn't just choose him. You let everyone destroy my reputation. You stayed silent while people mocked me. Never once asked if I was okay." Tears rolled down her face. I know, I was wrong. I believed she was sorry, I really did. But sometimes, an apology comes after the damage is already done. I wished her well. I genuinely hoped she would heal. Then I stood up, and I walked away. That was the last conversation we ever had. A few weeks later, I learned the rest of the friend group had started arguing among themselves. Without me there to blame, they turned on each other. Secrets came out. Old grudges resurfaced. People who used to gossip about me suddenly became the next target. It was strange watching it happen, not because I enjoyed it, but because I finally understood something. People who constantly gossip about others eventually gossip about each other. I had never really been the problem. I had simply become the easiest target. Looking back now, I don't regret telling Emma the truth. If I had stayed quiet, I would have betrayed my own values. What I do regret is begging people to believe me. Real friends don't require you to prove your honesty while blindly trusting someone they've known for a fraction of the time. If someone immediately tears you down instead of hearing you out, they've already made their choice. Losing that friend group felt like losing my entire world at the time. Now it feels like I escaped one. Sometimes the hardest goodbye ends up being the beginning of the healthiest chapter of your life. And as for Ryan, the last thing I heard was that he'd moved on to another relationship. I honestly hope his next partner pays attention to the red flags much sooner than we did, because people can hide who they are for a while. But eventually, the truth has a way of introducing itself.